2017. It's really cool to have him here. Please welcome Randell Adjei.
How's everybody? First and foremost, I believe in energy. Energy is really powerful. Words are really powerful. Would you all agree?
Yes.
Words can bring us up, or words can bring us? Absolutely. What I want you to do is I want you to turn to the person closest to you, beside you, and tell them you are excellent because you are capable. Look at all you guys smiling, feeling good about yourselves. It's a beautiful thing. Can I get y'all to repeat after me and say, I am excellent? Because I am capable. And one more thing, if you can say, repeat after me and say, I am not my struggles. I am not my pain. They are just roadblocks. That prove how far I came. Amazing. I'm so happy to be here. Thank you so much to everybody who helped put this together. Nicole, I thank you. Lillian, I thank you. Alyssa, you played a role too. I thank you. To the MacKenzie Gallery, I thank you. To the audience, I thank you all for being here and being a part of this. It's a beautiful thing. Brad, thank you. Thank you. Can we give it one more time for Brad, for Info Red? It's a very beautiful thing to be here and share my work. And Tara, thank you so much. The Vertigo series, I really appreciate you coming and hosting. Give it up one more time. Her sister's here, her father's here. It's a beautiful thing. You know? I love it. The family's here. That's a beautiful thing. The last thing before I get into it, inside of our hands we have all these nerve endings that travel from our organs, right? Our organs have all these nerves that travel to our hands and the bottom of our feet. So you can basically map the organs at the bottom of your feet and inside of your hands. And so our hands are really powerful. So I want to invite you to put your hands together and ask yourself, why did I come here today? What did I come to get out of today's event? You may not know, but if it's good vibes, if it's positivity, whatever it is, I'm going to count down from 10 down to 1. And what I want you to do is just release that positive atmosphere to the person beside you, to the atmosphere, and let's just have a good time. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Awesome. Oh, it's going to be a good night. It's already been a good night. I feel good. I feel good. I feel good. All right. All right, there's one more thing I want to say. One more thing I want to say. So far, I've had a really good time. It's my first time in Regina. My first time, I've never been this far west, outside of Toronto. I was in Winnipeg last year. Going to Brandon tomorrow, so I'm excited about that. Really get to see the prairies, so I'm excited about that. But it's been really fun, and what Lillian and Nicole have really planned for me. Being here yesterday, I got to do a workshop with some educators, which is a lot of fun. We learned, we teared up, we laughed, we really enjoyed our time together. And it was a really honorable, it's an honor for me to do the work that I do. Today we went to Scott Collegiate, and Aiden and Trey were a part of it. They're here today, like, it's an amazing thing, you know. We made a connection at the school. These are two young, talented leaders in their own respect, doing some great work in their communities, and just like the light that shines in quote-unquote dark places, you know what I'm saying? So thank you for your light, thank you for what you guys do, and I'm so excited to see your future, you know what I'm saying? Yeah. I am an artist, and I don't have any time to be silent. No time to allow these words to asphyxiate my ancestry amidst this violence. Amidst this despair, I can't deny the world my gift because of fear. Living a life of purpose and service cannot and will not die with my gifts still in here. Inspired by my pain and how close death came, images of a tombstone inscribed with my name. Just then I snapped back to a new era, a new lane, and then my real eye realized that I could be the one to make a change. You see, I am an artist, creator of lyrical calligraphy. Take you on a journey with my soliloquies. Literary imagery is full of healing. May my words add meaning to your life, and the thoughts you left behind with the things that I write, may my words penetrate your soul, levitate your being beyond the thoughts that you think you know. Because see, ignoring the call of our dreams can be lethal. If you ignore the call of your dreams, it can be lethal. Especially when we tell our big dreams to small-minded people. Pumping in the depths of me is my artistry, this life-giving gift that I was given. How can I deny the world the gift of the Creator's imprint? How dare I suppress the talents etched in the flesh of my chest? Am I not grateful? Do I not cherish it? Randell, have you not realized that this is a gift to your exodus? See, when chasing our dreams, sometimes we ask, is it worth it? But have you not realized that by not doing it, you're causing the world a disservice, a failure to fulfill your purpose? Because see, I am an artist, persistently pushing pens and pencils, living in my purpose, practicing my pure potential. See, we artists, we have to get creating when the world is devastated. We are the beacons of hope, healing to suicide notes. We change people's lives with this gift. So no matter how rough it gets, don't quit. Know that you can push beyond the limits. You're an image of the infinite. Every choice that we make fulfills our life's pages. See, the road ahead is going to be tough, but remain patient. Know that you are designing magic in the making. So when the blueprint of your story is read, will it free others from the matrix? I really believe that each and every single one of us are artists, you know? Whether you choose to believe it or not, we happen to be here in a gallery, and I think this is a place to kind of like proclaim your artistry. You create experiences for people. You create laughter for people. You create food. You create a lot of different things. We're constantly creating, you know? We are creators. And I think it's important to own within our own story, within our own narrative, that we are artists. Because I do believe that we both write the story and also are the protagonists, the main characters in our story. We also create the movie of our lives, but we are also the main character of our lives through our choices and the way we react to the things that we do. So I think it's important to, you know, proclaim and own your artistry at the end of the day, right? Yeah. Absolutely. Give it up for that. Give it up for your artistry. So, one thing I missed, and I seen some of y'all doing, I was really glad to see it. I was like, oh man, I forgot to say it mid-piece. But you know, in the poetry community, most of y'all know it. But you know, if you hear something you like, you can snap. You give it a little practice. If you like something you hear, you snap. It's kind of a positive way to not clap and overshadow the person who's on stage, but just to snap. Let the person you like what you hear. Another thing you can do in Toronto, we call it the soul grunt. If you hear something you like, kind of like, yeah, exactly. That's what you got, like, or something like, one of those. And you kind of have to like do your face like, make your face like, one of those as well too. So you're happy to, you feel free to do that if you hear something you like as well too. All right, cool. I often question if a coffin is where my legacy is destined. A rigor mortis reflection of me, buried 6 feet deep in the six, my legacy, my soul, awaiting the arrival of 12 disciples, and no remnants of me, no fruits of labor left from my seeds, not leaving this world better than when I came in. My name, forgotten. Not even whispered upon the lips of those my actions impacted. It's scary. I heard once that the worst thing that can happen to us when we are no longer here is not death itself. It is to be forgotten. And I cringe at the thought of my efforts lost in coffins, boxed in the same confines that caused me problems, my life, my beliefs, encrypted in tombstone, indicating the dates to and from. But I hope the dash in between represents more than just the good work I've done. My life blowing in the wind like the breath that has left my lungs, only to leave this world unfulfilled with holes in the potential that I was given, and respin in the same cycle to my children. So when your time comes and your soul is sent, what will the dash on your tombstone represent? I was sharing this earlier at Scott. I think it's really important that we really focus on what that dash is going to represent when we're no longer here. Two things in life are really inevitable. They're guaranteed. You're going to live and one day we're going to leave. But I think it's really about that dash in between and what it symbolizes and how it means for other people that we have the grace to touch while we're here. you know? It is called the present, so I think it's a gift to wake up each day, to be alive, to share our stories, to speak, to touch people's lives with who we are. And I'm very grateful that I found my purpose and found what I love to do at my age. And since the first day, since the day I learned my first word, self-expression has always been second nature. A child prodigy of third world parents, so I have to tell my forefathers' stories on paper. Silence for too long, the strength of my tongue sentenced me to a life of righting wrongs. My penmanship bridges the gaps of intergenerational dialogues, marginalized between the lines of lands my parents traveled, sacrificing the familiarity of home to make ease for me life's inevitable battles. So who am I to not be what I was destined? Who are you to not be what you were destined? Despite school systems that labeled me and sanctioned me to detention, despite the target on my back and private funding to put my melanin in prison correction, I will not be your stereotype. I am made from the essence of stardust above aerial heights. It is not my fault you cannot see the light in me. You cannot enlighten me on your capitalist commodities. I am the rose that still adapted to blossom out of colonized concrete, capitalizing on conquered conquest my predecessors paved, placing poetic politic on history's page. It is these pages cut from my family trees that once hung our forefathers as slaves. It is these pages I tell their stories. It is these lines they once hung from I celebrate their glory, just to stay connected to my truth. See, these pages are sacred. It's how hip-hop's essence began as pure truth. But see, these days I can't relate to what a lot of rappers are saying in the booth. Because see, the spoken word is a gift. And you can emanate life or death by the mere intention coming out of your lips. We can speak dreams into existence, creating a world united or divided, so you can choose to be the change or remain silenced. By size, the tongue is the strongest muscle in our bodies for a reason, a tool to connect us to the divine. More than just speaking, it keeps us believing. It is a portal between time and space mixed, the inspiration of ancient hieroglyphs. See, our words can build dynasties and mend broken bonds. Our words can create vitality and give us a freedom of redemption songs. Our words can live beyond us like MLK's dream to see us free at last, so be mindful. Be mindful of the words and intentions that depart from the sacredness of your tongue. We are powerful vessels. The Creator etched presence into our lungs, so you have a gift within you. Leave a legacy that will continue. Etch your name in the dendrochronology of history's pages. Do not allow the from and to on your tombstone just to be dated. Let the dash in between reveal the story you told and of the magic that you created. Thank you. I wasn't always this person that you see before you. I was a really troubled young man. I got myself into a lot of trouble, just really angry as a young person, trying to figure out who I was. I was born in Toronto, but I was raised in Ghana from 1 to 6 years old. And I faced a lot of bullying, I faced a lot of racism, a lot of discrimination, a lot of challenges just for being me, you know? And one thing I realized is none of us actually chose this life. You didn't choose the color of your skin. You didn't choose, where you're gonna be born. I didn't choose to be born in Toronto. I didn't choose to be raised in Ghana. But I think at the end of the day, what we have is our humanity. And that's what connects us together. You have 2 eyes, a nose, a face, and so do I, And we get that opportunity just to connect based off of that. I think everything else is secondary to our existence, to our humanity. And so this poem that I want to share with you really just has to do with just living and trying to figure things out for myself. And being a young person who got myself into a lot of trouble. And this is my first spoken word poem that I wrote when I was about 16 years old. So I don't share this piece often, but Brad kind of inspired me. He said, he wrote something 25 years ago that he brought back. He's like, all right, let me see how far I can go in the vaults of my mind. Cold, dark nights where I was nowhere to be found. Leaving my loving mother worried, asking herself, how? In 2003, I was a thief for Halloween. Stealing, causing a commotion, and creating a scene. Throwing rocks at the innocent, laughing back at those times I reminisce. See, that night, I made a big mistake. See, the cops pulled up and I could have ran away, but I chose not to. That choice left me in a cell overnight singing the blues. Left in there for hours till my father picked me up. Sitting in that passenger seat, well, it left us both feeling distraught. When we got home, we fought verbally. And this all happened at the age of 12. I wasn't even 13. On another cold, brisk November night, I left myself in a fright. See, early, me and my boys caused mischief that night, assaulting another youth. I remember kicking him in the face with my Timberland boots. I got home later on to hear the police wanted me. You see, I knew what I did, but no way was I going back in. So they wanted to see me the very next day. And after school, I took my precious time getting on the subway. I walked through those doors as nervous as a thief. There were thoughts going through my head, and times I couldn't breathe until I was arrested. Something I would never foresee. See, the officer sat me in a cell, and for the next 12 hours, I went through hell. I cried. I tried to get some help until I realized there was no one left. Within that cell, I lost myself. I stayed in that cold, lonely cell until later on the next day. I was transported downtown in the early morning. I had my picture and my fingerprints taken, and before my eyes, my life was soaring. I stayed handcuffed until 4 in the morning. It was hard to overcome the fear. I felt my life and self-esteem dripping in my tears. I made a few peers, but found out for them, it was the end. Some were in there for 2, 3 years, some even 10. I was so surprised. I remember closing my eyes only to wake up to a puddle of my very own cries. And after that, I promised myself there'd be no more lies, so I tried and I tried and I tried, but I still never realized that my life was a prize. See, as long as the spirit lives inside, it really doesn't matter how big its size. So I write to you today to tell you about my experience, to free my mind from any irritants. If I could change my life, there'd be no replacement. Although I had court dates like every day, it was one step closer to removing my mother's grief. So she prayed and prayed and prayed until her son was free, walking and grimacing on both arthritic knees. After this experience, I widened my eyes and I was filled with sorrow. Then trying and trying and trying, then doing and doing to live a better tomorrow. Thanks. My father is a broken child, too afraid to face the mistakes of his past, too afraid to accept and acknowledge the children he scarred and wounded with his shattered pieces, too afraid to reconcile with his demons, to even look me in the eyes and accept that he is the reason his shallow heart nearly drowned my mother in the deep end. I empathize with what my mother had to endure. His words, his actions made her very insecure. I mean, clearly he's aged, but not mature. For so long, I walked around with a heavy heart and a sense of neglect. A juvenile delinquent with no sense of purpose. I was working for a love from my father because I felt I had to earn it. So I sought for ways to get his attention. I mean, after school detentions turned to suspensions and then getting arrested, just hoping he would sit and talk with me. Just sit and talk with me. Help me try to understand why I felt so awkwardly. I felt diseased, and I thought he could doctor me. But the older I get, the clearer I see him. Another broken child with little to believe in. After years of reflection, I called him to tell him I forgive him, because I expected things of him he wasn't giving. Held him high on a pedestal he never even knew existed, and then expected him to know it and live it. But see, our parents can only give us the best to know how. And I forgave myself and I forgave him because I know this now. And after pouring my heart over the phone, he was speechless. He said he called back, and then I heard a dial tone. But regardless, it was one of the most courageous things I've ever done. And I'm so glad that my soul chose to be his son. Because they say smart people learn from their mistakes, but wise people learn from others. And because there are so many broken children, I refuse to raise another. You know, one thing I've learned about life along my journey, I'm an old soul. I've been here for a long time, you know? I don't know if anybody's picked up on it, but a couple people said that to me. Yeah, we had that conversation. I've been here for a long time. Been here many, many times, you know? I'm fortunate that I live in a 20-year-old body, but, you know, I've just been here many times. And I think one of the things I've learned on my journey is that it really doesn't matter who we are, how good we are to the people that are in our lives, or, you know, what we do. It just, like, you're gonna struggle, you know? Struggle, it does not discriminate. It does not say, oh, you did this good thing yesterday, I'll be kind to you today. Struggle will find you. It will always find you. And the one thing I've learned, it's not really necessarily about how we react to it, but more so how we choose to respond to it, right? But the biggest thing is, what do we learn from it? I think there's a seed of opportunity in every adversity we face. I think in everything we go through, there's something we can take away from to allow us to become better, to be stronger, to be wiser, but it's having a clear vision to try to see what the lesson is and how we can take the lesson to allow us to be better on our journey. So the next time struggle comes in your life, smile, be thankful, and find the lesson in that struggle. Because I know too many broken people broke into pieces they think they cannot fix. And like shattered glass, they may cut you when you try to uplift, slice the helping hands, hoping to heal the harm that's happened to them. They often hurt in silence, smile in your face today, but tomorrow you may hear of how the brokenness has escalated into acts of violence. We often judge these broken people and call them names, label them, sometimes forgetting that like flipping a coin, they too can change. But what does it really mean to be broken when it is broken people that have helped mend the world? I realized that in my brokenness is when my true life unfurled. Brokenness is a sign of recreation, a sign of growth. But we fear brokenness because we fear the unknown and uncertainty. But brokenness can piece our wholes together perfectly, sometimes permanently. After all, if you've never known brokenness, how would you know when you're a whole? If you've never been broken, then how would you measure your growth? Thanks. All right, I think I got a couple more for y'all. I'm gonna be reading. I know. Well, we get to speak after, Brad, so, you know, we'll get to share a little something. But I got this poem that I wrote with the Toronto Arts Council. It was actually a really amazing opportunity. The Toronto Arts Council was doing a study about how art impacts young people's lives. And so they asked me to write a poem, and it ended up being probably one of my favorite poems I wrote at the time about art and just reflecting on what art means to me. And this is my book called I'm Not My Struggles. And this is essentially my life in an image, you know, just me trying to navigate the difficulties of living in in some troubled neighborhoods when the darkness was trying to pull me down. And I learned about myself. I discovered who I was, and I think as I continued to find out who I was in life, the angels came and they pulled me up. And these are people in my community that were painted who kind of play the role as angels, and I was able to find myself through the darkness. You know, again, like what Brad said, how do we know what is positive without the negative things in life? How do we appreciate all of it? I'm sure all of us can share stories of hardships that we've been through, but look at you, you're here. You're here. You're here. You're here. You're here. Give it up for yourselves for being here. But not only that, you know, sometimes it's very easy to have a victim mentality, to think that the world is working against us. But everything is working out for you, my friends. Everything is working out for you, my friends. Everything is working out for you. Everything's working out for you. Everything's working out for you. Everything is working out for you. Everything is working out for you. Everything's working out for you. And it always is and always will be. Always is and always will be. All right? And this is my poem about art. In its essential core, it is the beat of our community. It is a bloodline that keeps us going. It is the ink in our veins, the medicine to our pain. It is a paintbrush stroke of God that paints our perfect canvas. Art has a way of drawing us in. It has a way of drawing the best out of us. It is a graffiti on a red brick wall from a 16-year-old who just wants to spray away his pain. It is a movement from the soles of our feet that reminds our souls that there are no limits, that there are no unreachable feats in life. See, art is taking the first step without seeing the mountain ahead. It is a life that is rooted into me every time I Edgar Allan Poe a tree and branch out what our ancestors leave. It is a reason we breathe. It is a clicking tongue of photography. After all, they say a picture is worth 1,000 words. But in some communities, some teens have no aim. And trigger words are quick to inflict pain. They say art allows us to create, to think, to reflect on what happens in our lives, what happens in our communities, and what happens around us. Art is a great way to live. Art is constantly connecting cultural communities to see the future. It is a known fact that if we can learn to better express ourselves, the better ourselves will regenerate, improving our quality of life. Art is the right way to live. Art is a privilege for those with disabilities who can't walk freely, so they begin to weave the seams of their dreams, and I believe art is like a second language to our youth. It is the fruits of our truth, so let us grow. It is a way of finding ourselves because without it, we are lost. Like that troubled 13-year-old boy I once was, because in my neighborhood, we didn't have any access to community resources, and community centers were trying to make programs for us, but not with us. See, they neglected our interests. See, art is bridging the gap between opportunity and community for our youth to walk into an orchestrated future. It is a sense of self-knowing. It is powerful. It is a lead in the pencil that keeps a leader leading. Art has kept me from being marginalized between the lines. Writing has allowed me to do the right thing, making me aware of the issues of my community. Because in its essential core, it is the beat of our community. It is a beat, it is a bloodline that keeps us going. It is the ink in our veins, the medicine to our pain, the paintbrush stroke of genius that paints our perfect canvas. The art is life. Art is us molding ourselves into the perfect clay. Art is today, art is tomorrow, art is eternal, art is activism, so call us artivists. It is a moving of mountains. It is the liberty of building statues. It is the architecture of our minds. It is the neurons in our brains that helps us maintain. It is the way the sun kisses the foreheads of trees. See, an artist's imagination flies in the skies and you simply cannot cage it up. Because in its essential core, it is the beat of our community. It is a bloodline that keeps us going. It is the ink in our veins, the medicine to our pain. It is a paintbrush stroke of genius that paints our perfect canvas. The art is life. Art is me. Art is you. So be you to full. Thanks. I love the word beautiful. I'm a wordsmith, so I love playing with words, but the word beautiful really means be you to full, right? Beautiful is subjective. What's beautiful is very subjective to all of us, and I think to just understand it's about being you to the fullest. That's what it really means to be beautiful. And I'm just really attracted to authentic people who are just authentic and who are just themselves at the end of the day. Y'all having a good time so far? Yeah. Cool. So I got my last poem, and I'm just trying to think of what to share. But I guess I'll share this poem. I was sharing it earlier today in the Scots program. This poem is me as a young African-Canadian man who's really trying to navigate this world. It's a very Eurocentric world, but I realized that at the end of the day, we're all just trying to figure it out. And I was having a conversation with Nicole and Lillian a little bit earlier, and just understanding this whole race thing. I think race is really a figment of our imaginations. I don't think it's real, personally. I want you guys to imagine in Africa, everyone looked like each other. If we all look like each other, why would we call each other black? Or if everyone looked like each other, why would we even use the word white? But these are social constructs that were put upon us. White meaning purity, black meaning darkness that don't exist, right? And so I'm someone who just really believes in humanity. I believe in humanity. I acknowledge that my skin is a little different, the way I live is a little different, my lived experiences are different, but as I said, we're human, and we all have to navigate this world together, whether we choose to do it together or not, at the end of the day. And so this is a poem called Western World. This is just about me just having a cathartic moment of realizing that the world, it's going to take some time for the world to really see my perspective. And my friends who live in my neighborhood who were just young men who were, went to school, and we were marginalized for being, who we were in school. We were on the bus and being marginalized for being on the bus, being discriminated against, and I just wrote this poem as a way to kind of alleviate some stress and some pain. So this is my cathartic poem called Western World. In this Western world where war is waged, we wear our wounds like warriors. Hearts on sleeves, we wear our wounds like tattoos written across our iris. We see the world in a peaceful violence, yet speak of the world in the ways in which we've been silenced. Like how they erect women like queens, then Mirandize a lady's liberties in a New York minute. Strip you bare of your culture and ethnicity, tell you you are free, yet criminalize you before you're proven guilty. They treat innocence like business, breaking bonds, then stock people in cells like product, then trade you when they lose interest. The price we pay in exchange for freedom. The American dream, the Canadian dream, is a war between spirit and sin we've yet to wake up from. This dream is a nightmare for us melanated beings who walk in the light. We are immigrants who left our rights at the borders we crossed. We came from broken land to stolen land, this true north strong and free. This economic monopoly to commodify me. This land has clouded my vision, clouded my melanin and made me feel blue. And they blackmailed me with white lies, and I'm in search of truth. In search of change, no purple rain. They are cowards green with envy. People who'd rather see me on gray concrete, soulless and empty, as my red blood runs towards a pot of gold, a fleeting rainbow that colors the canvas of a 2,000-year-old genocide. The paintbrush, a gun they use like exercise to run this country. Race is a fundraise marathon that's gotten the world off track. I said race is a fundraise marathon that's gotten the world off track. Too many issues to get our reparations back for being black and excellent. They kill black bodies and extract the melanin for medicine. We are lab rats in a social experiment. They put fluoride in our water to make us docile, and chemicals in our food we cannot pronounce. That's just stuff we need to keep out our mouth. They use our names as bonds of ownership. That's why they capitalize our names, so they can capitalize on our names. We are modern-day slaves in search of freedom. Growing up in the 6, when I was 7, I knew brothers that never ate, so they started carrying 9s. Like my best friend who started selling rocks then turned them to boulders. He started packing the heat because the waves were getting colder. Now, I don't condone selling drugs, selling poison to make a living, but we don't control the drugs that cross these borders into this new world order. Obama succeeded the snakes in the bush, only for America to pull the Trump card when we didn't look. Like a game of president, it's politics. That's why I'm hesitant to vote, just in case they ain't true, though. One more time, I said, Obama succeeded the snakes in the bush, Obama succeeded the snakes in the bush, only for America to pull the Trump card when we didn't look. Like a game of president, it's politics. That's why sometimes I'm hesitant to vote, just in case they ain't true, though. So I fear the world my children will inherit. I fear the world my children will inherit. So I do my best before they come, before I perish, to be the change I wish to see. So I wear my heart on my sleeves. Tattooed across my skin are my wounds of this utopia I believe in, hopes of brighter tomorrows. Because every sunrise, a black mother's nature is mourning the death of her son at his wake. Mourning has become a ritual of survival, a coping mechanism, a means of honoring our reincarnated ancestors, because life and death coexist in the form of faith and breath, in the fleeting moment of an inhale. A reminder it is a gift to be alive. Despite the pain tattooed behind my eyes, here I stand. Tattooed across my skin are my wounds, the plight of this African-Canadian man. Thanks.